This tutorial is to show you how to dress up your mouse Theremin score, and this will be part 1. So I'm going to open up my Coolio 1 score project in processing, and let me just save as and rename that, and we'll just call it score dress up. All right, and so in this tutorial we're going to simply look at color and stroke weight, and I might show you how to use variables with those as well. Okay, so first of all, one of the very easy thing you can do is change the stroke weight. So if we just run the score the way it was, you have lines where you are meant to will give you a pitch meant to push. Now if you went ahead and just changed the stroke weight, and you can use the function stroke weight, and then just put a number in it, and this number is the amount of pixels. So let's try making it about 4. Let's try that and see how that looks. Command R to run, and there you go. It looks a bit nicer, maybe a bit easier to see. Okay, and then the other thing you can quite easily do is change the stroke color. Now you're going to use this function called stroke. Right now 0, if you looked into the colors, it just means black. But you can use an RGB designation as well. So if you wanted to change the stroke color, you would just go stroke, and then pick a color, in this case maybe green. And then if you run it, you see that all the lines are green. Of course, you can change the color for each line, and the weight, in fact. So if you wanted to do that, you would just make sure, remember there's an operation order. So basically, processing, the compiler looks at each line and just does, runs it and then runs the next one. So if you put another stroke function before each line, you can change a color. So if you wanted that to be red, for example, and then maybe this one to be blue. So in compiling order, it draws this line, then it changes the stroke color, then it draws that line, then changes the stroke color to that, and then draws that line. So I think one thing here to just note, it's important that you be very explicit with things like stroke weight and stroke for each element of your patch, of your sketch. Because if you, for example, just declare it up here, and then if you have a very long and complicated bunch of code, and then much later you declare a stroke or stroke weight, it might change everything that's being run. Okay, let's run that. And there you see 3 different colors there. All right, so let's just talk about maybe having variables. So stroke weight variable is easy. Since stroke weights are integers, I'm going to say int. And then pick a name. Now this is an example here, top margin compensation, sorry. A very explicit, but maybe too long variable name. It's great because you know exactly what it is. But then if you're using it a whole bunch, it might be a bit too long. So that's up to you. You'll eventually learn as your codes get more complex what suits you in terms of variable naming. So I'm looking for a stroke weight, but I'll maybe call it SW1, stroke weight 1, or maybe SWT, maybe something like that, stroke weight 1. Okay, and maybe make that 4. And then I'll have another one, 2, and maybe make that 8. And then I'll have a thin one as well. And then we'll make that equal to, say, 3. Okay? And so if I wanted to put, instead of, if say I wanted to emphasize one note over the others, I'll go ahead and, let's get rid of these strokes. Well, let's get rid of these ones. Well, we'll just leave that for now. I'll go ahead and have a standard one. So let's make that the 4. And we can copy and paste here. Stroke weight 1, that's going to be 4. And suppose I want to emphasize just simply one of the lines. Let's make it this line here. And we'll make that stroke weight 2. And then have stroke weight 1 again. Okay, so if I run that, you see that's a bit thinner, thicker, thinner. All right. Now, finally, let me just talk about assigning color variables as well, and that's possible. You can simply use the color variable type, and then give it a name, of course, CLR1 maybe, and then use again the color, and then you put the RGB value in. So, or in fact, if you wanted to be better, you can say use an actual name. Let's call this one mint something, and you can look it up, and let's use that combination there. You can look these up on the web, find some colors that you like, and then in fact, if I wanted to change the stroke, and you can have plenty of colors too, more than one. You can call this green, or let's just do blue. And it makes it a little bit more handy to have actual color names. So if I'm going to make this one mint then, and then make this one blue, and we'll just leave that one as it is. Well, that's blue. We'll change that to, I'm not sure which one this is, orange or something like that. And then run, and you see now you can use variable names to describe the colors as well. That might make things a little bit handier, a little easier to refer to. Okay, so that's part 1 of the score dress-up tutorial.